Good afternoon. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. Thrilled to be here and glad all of you have joined us today on Business as Usual. I'm also joined with Jonathan Kirsting on my team, who oversees visibility and all things media. And he will be navigating a lot of the questions that are going to be asked, and this should be a highly interactive session. So I want to give a shout out to Huntington Bank. They've been incredible partners with us right from the onset. They watched us pivot into what today is, Jonathan, what is our 53rd show maybe?
53, not that we're counting, right?
I know, 53, hard to believe. We thought we'd do this for a week. And so here we are, and there's no end in sight. They are the largest small business association lenders in the region, and they've been amazing in terms of what's been happening through this pandemic. So just a few things about programming this week. Tomorrow we'll be joined by George Cook, co-founder and CEO of Honeycomb Credit, and a partnership that they have with the Urban Redevelopment Authority. So I'm excited about that. And then Friday we actually have Will Allen, and Will Allen is going to talk to us about best ways to mentor and support Black businesses. He's also involved with a program called Boost, and he's going to talk about his investment experience and how that process can be created more equitable. So as you can see, we're very busy and we're trying to provide relevance for all of you. So first of all, we've muted you. So, if you have a question, use the chat. And the chat will be monitored by Jonathan. We'll try to get to those questions. And do not use this as an opportunity for advertising. That's not what this is about. So I'm going to jump in, and I am thrilled to be joined today by Ken Broadbent. And Ken is from the Steamfitters Local, number 449, and Nick DeIuliis. He's president and CEO for CNX Resources. I'm going to start with Nick, and I'm going to say good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to talk about a new organization as well that was recently formed in Pittsburgh between labor and industry called Pittsburgh Works Together. So last week, one of my good friends, Morgan O'Brien, who's a co-chair of Pittsburgh Works, wrote an op-ed discussing the importance of Southwestern Pennsylvania's diverse economy, which today, alongside many of the traditional industries, working alongside emerging tech. That's why we love to partner with everyone. To promote broad economic prosperity for everyone and create equity. So part of that piece, Morgan talked about some of the initial priorities of Pittsburgh Works Together, and he discussed including voc training, not only that can impart critically needed skills for the future workforce, but also a new respect for people who use their hands to keep the physical world working. And he also talked about the importance of continued investments in transit projects, which is of great passion to me, and broadband expansion and upgrades to our water and wastewater facilities. So Nick, can you talk about your perspective as a leader of CNX and why the mission of Pittsburgh Works Together is important to you?
Sure. Thanks, Audrey, and hi, everybody. To me, it's a great question. It's obviously an important one. I think it comes down to a couple of factors, and I'll just reference the Pittsburgh Tech Council and just looking at that name and those three words in that name. It really sort of sums up how I think of Pittsburgh Works Together. So you've got a Pittsburgh component to this. Call it Pittsburgh or Western PA. I've lived here my entire life. I've lived actually within a 5-mile radius my entire life. That's by choice. And this really, for me, started probably about 10 years ago. And I don't know if Ken realizes this or not, but it actually started with Ken Broadbent. And we had a meeting about 10 years ago talking about, at the time, the Marcellus Shale and how the natural gas industry was looking exciting and what we could do to work together to get it growing. And during that conversation, basically Ken took me to task. And what he took me to task on was the issue of a lot of the workers, a lot of the talent, a lot of the expertise that was working in the industry at the time were not individuals or entities from Western PA or from Pittsburgh. And his message was basically one of, if this is a legitimate opportunity that's got some sustaining and going power tied to it, that's going to be within this region, what's the plan to get our local employees, our local team members, our local citizens involved in this from every aspect of the development chain, from your hourly workers coming right out of high school that want to start a career, to college grads, to graduate degrees. And basically, questioning why so many Texas, why so many Oklahoma license plates, et cetera, at all these job sites. Left that meeting and, sort of did a lot of inner thinking about that, and caring about the region sort of bothered me. I think he had a point. And through the course of a number of years, we've made tremendous progress on that front. When you look at it today, if you look at CNX Resources as an example, and I don't think we're maybe all that different from a lot of other peer companies, I suspect, I don't have the exact statistics, but I bet 80 plus, 90% of our employees are from this region. That's a great thing. That's a huge, I think, strategic advantage to have because this region has some unique things to it, particularly with respect to work ethic. Second thing, you look at technology. This is a technology-driven industry. And I think the fact that that gets missed a lot by people outside the industry is a big opportunity from my perspective with Pittsburgh Works. This is a disruptive technology. It's an innovative industry. It's changing the global dynamic, not just things regionally or nationally, but globally with respect to what shale and advanced manufacturing are doing across the map. So technology and getting that message out about how disruptive, how innovative, how entrepreneurial of a series of industries, manufacturing, energy, all the associated types of follow-on activities was really important too. And then, you look at council, this is an interesting group, I think a really good collection of entities and individuals that I want to personally be associated with. So when I look at who's leading the building trades, and I look at the building trades, and I look at these other companies and who's on those teams, I want to be, that's a winning group. I want to be associated with that winning group. And I think together, that group can make a huge difference with respect to the region. So those were sort of the things, Audrey, I think that initially got me really excited about it.
No, it's great. And I think we have a lot of alignment because the collisions are endless and the partnerships are really, are really endless. And I appreciate you sort of setting the table for that.
Audrey, this is Kenny Broadbent. Nick has jarred my memory. I remember that meeting and I appreciate that. And we did it was a good job starting communication, because what he's talking about is the building trades with the Marcellus Shale Coalition went from adversarial to working together. And Morgan O'Brien had mentioned things like this, and Jack Mascaro, and I just picked the ball up that why not? Pittsburgh Works Together is exactly what businesses working together, corporations, companies, contractors, manufacturers, labor unions working together for a common goal so that we all grow the economy. The more manufacturing and keeping U.S. Steel going and more natural gas and petrochemical plants means middle-class jobs, also means less crime, jobs where people get health care and can retire with dignity. So the Pittsburgh Works, where you've got corporations and labor unions working together, is unlike anywhere else in the country. People will be imitating what we do if we can pull this off and grow Western Pennsylvania and raise the standard of living to where we all benefit by it for our families.
So Ken, thank you for joining us and jumping right in. You need no introduction, and I introduced him a moment ago. Thank you for your passion, and thank you for your optimism on making this partnership work. It's evident. So talk about the types of skilled laborers that comprise the membership of IBEW and the different projects that they work on each and every day.
Well, I'm actually with the Steamfitters Union, but you had the misprint IBEW, but that's no big deal because I would sooner speak as the building trades, the Steamfitters, the IBEW, carpenters, we're all part of the building trades. And the building trades believes in Pittsburgh Works. It's time that we get this message out and work together, because we all work with our hands and we all have apprenticeships. And the schools, the apprentice schools that are in Western Pennsylvania are some of the best in North America. The electricians, the carpenters, operating engineers. We just built a new school, $18.5 million. We cannot afford not to invest in education. Training, education is where it was at. I always tell the story, you wouldn't hire somebody that was an accountant that wasn't a CPA, or a lawyer that didn't pass a bar exam. Why would you hire somebody to put your roads in, your electrical, your HVAC, your plumbing, that wasn't a professional, that didn't go through a 5-year apprenticeship? And the apprenticeships are all for free. doesn't cost a student anything. It's all self-funded off every hour that someone works in a trade, and all the building trades work the same. I often laugh at people want to re-energize, or how do we get people to work with their hands? The building trades has been teaching technical school type trades, type of talent with and the skills for the last 50 years. Not a burden on the community. No state, federal, local dollars. Same with the health and welfare. These apprentices are starting at roughly 17, 18 bucks an hour with health and welfare. Eventually they get pension money, can have a middle-class way of life, and retire with dignity at no burden to society. The pension funds are all self-funded. So we are one of the best kept secret in America and need to promote ourselves more, and working directly with the Pittsburgh Works and manufacturers and corporations. People that 50 years ago we would fight with and be on strike with, now partnering up to make Western Pennsylvania a more viable place to live, grow the economy, less crime, less drug use. It's the right thing to do. It's simple. Hire local people.
So you also want to talk about that you built a new facility out north of Pittsburgh. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, would love to. And even on every one of our emails I send out, I see what is the Steamfitter, so people can click on the video. The video costs about $13,000 and shows our school. But we moved in January 1st, 2017, spent $2.5 million for 8 acres, built 75,000 square feet technical school for $18.5 million. Governor Wolf goes $5 million RCAP. We borrowed about $11 million. And with a big job like the petrochemical plant, we've paid the school off in 3 years. We knew it was coming. We needed to train more welders, more steam fitters, and all the trades in Western Pennsylvania did that. They bet before it happened that they needed to bring more apprentices in. We got 450 apprentices now. All the trades in Western Pennsylvania ramped up their schooling and their training so that they'd have more manpower to man the jobs. And by the way, all these people in all the building trades are all OSHA trained, which lowers the insurance costs. People are safer. All drug tested and randomly drug tested. We take more drug tests than a brain surgeon or a lawyer that's representing you in court.
So is there a website? I want someone to put up the website so that they can look at all that you've developed. Can you tell us what that website is?
If you just punch in Steamfitters 449, it'll come right up.
Okay, excellent.
We'll
Thank you. And
You know, by the way, you see we do a little bit of marketing, and we were around before the Steelers, but they had the logo before us, but Insa Font, or would they be coming after us?
I thought they
Okay.
took
You'll
that from
see our
you.
Steamfitter logo everywhere, and we're proud of it. I'm trying to
Okay.
get Morgan O'Brien out at our school and bring maybe the robotics people. I didn't
Right.
realize it until probably 6 months ago. Morgan told me that Pittsburgh is number 2 behind Boston in robotics.
right.
Sooner or later, someone like the building trades would be the people to maintain facilities that were built like on BMW down in South Carolina. We need, working together with Pittsburgh Works, to bring manufacturers, spin off of the petrochemical industry, bring more people here. Nick knows we've talked to consul and pushing politicians. How about natural gas to jet fuel at our airport?
So
So
Ken,
I'm going to thank you. I'm going to pass the baton back over to Nick, and I want to ask him a few questions about policy. So Nick, as we look to the future where policymakers and even the market itself is pushing for more environmentally friendly fuel sources, how can natural gas fill this void? So like across the globe, we're seeing, the pace of vehicle electrification, and, it's growing, it's accelerating. Is this an area where there's a natural collaboration between labor, tech, and the energy sector, including natural gas? So Nick is up. Can we pull Nick off mute? Okay, Nick can't get off mute. Okay, I'm going to go back to him in a minute. And let's go back to Ken. Do you want to say anything about that, Ken, or you want me to jump?
Sure, I will. And
Nick, are you
I'm
there?
off mute now. Yeah, I think the
He's
host
there.
got
Okay.
me off.
Nick's on.
Jonathan had me on a gag order.
no,
Yes.
That's all right.
not
No,
true.
I think what you're saying is absolutely true, because again, if you look at how this unfolds, it wasn't too long ago when this was more of what you would traditionally think of as a natural gas exploration play. And then it became a bit of it evolved into a land grab where people were trying to aggregate as many acres as they could. And then there was questions about, can we repeatedly drill these wells at prolific rates that have good rates of return behind them? Or is it something that's a flash in the pan? And then it turned into, okay, can we develop and build all the pipeline infrastructure and the processing infrastructure to get this repeatable product to other markets? And then it evolved into, hey, let's, instead of shipping it down to the Gulf to be used in cracker petrochemical facilities, let's build them here. And the one out in Beaver is only going to be the first one. There will be probably 2 more cracker facilities built in the region on top of that one. And then it turned into, why don't we export this all over the world? So a lot of the methane molecules and ethane molecules that we are producing in this region, they're being now utilized regionally, like the petrochemical facility or power generation or transportation fleets that are now compressed natural gas or electrified. They're being consumed and utilized nationally, and then they're being consumed and utilized internationally with liquefied natural gas. For all this to happen, you're talking about not billions, but probably trillions of capital investment. You're talking about all kinds of different skill sets that are largely tech driven, but you're most importantly talking about a pipeline, no pun intended or perhaps pun intended, a pipeline of talent development that starts with the people living in this region, and specifically the middle class, that then gets into careers like the building trades, developed certified skill sets, whether it's welding or steam fitting or whatever the case might be. They earn family sustaining wages. They stay in the region. They own a home. They pay taxes. They or their kids are then off to college. They become degreed engineers that work in these different the areas of the development chain regionally, and then you're off and running. It's the story, frankly, that's just simply, it's not a new story. This story is what made Pittsburgh not too long ago. It's what our grandparents basically went through and did. And we had this big hiatus called the 70s and 80s when all this important stuff, manufacturing, energy, everything went away. And we know what that was like for those of us that have been around this region for a long time. This is history repeating itself. And it's just repeating itself because of 2 things. Because of technology and innovation, disruptive technology. The molecules were always there, right? It was there 50 years ago. It was technology innovation. And the ability to sustain that success is going to be on a talent pipeline that basically is fed by the people in this region, getting into these careers and areas where they're basically getting their entry points and their training and their initial opportunities through entities like the building trades. It's a pretty simple formula.
No, that's great. So Ken, so with so many people out of work, what are some of the opportunities that are available right now? I mean, we're at an all-time unemployment rate.
Well, all the building trades have apprentice tests, and if you go on their websites, you can find out when their tests are or call the local unions. With what went on with COVID-19, we just moved our applications from June to September. But you're always going to need various trades to do the skills, and a lot of people act like there's a shortage because some young people maybe don't want to work with their hands or work out in the cold. But you can make a middle-class way of life with the skills that you learn at the various building trades. So we get average about 450 want to take our test. All the trades are different, some more, some less. But we talk to high schools, we talk to technical schools, we go to community colleges. All of us have organizers that reach out and communicate with the community of what we are available. Jeff Nobers did a job fair a couple of years ago. We had thousands of people down the Penguin Arena. We had one last year at the Convention Center. This year we stopped it because of COVID-19, but we are constantly communicating. We want more people from the city to belong to the trades. With the work that's going on in the city, why shouldn't more city residents be working in the building trades? More minorities, more women. If the work's there in the city, we want to have people that live in the city also be able to do the work. But there's available Western Pennsylvania, as Nick said, the petrochemical industry. We want to see another cracker. We want things done right, clean air, clean water. We all fish and hunt. Let's do it right. Who's got the technology better than the United States? Who's got the work ethic better than Western Pennsylvania? Getting into the trades is a viable way to make a living with no debt like you have in college.
So Ken, I got a really important question for you here. We also have some questions here from participants that are watching right now. I just think this is such an awesome opportunity, as now we have so many unemployed people in the country right now, looking at the fact that trades are a really awesome way to get back into the workforce. Is this like an opportunity as well regionally to get more people engaged on this?
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for people that want to work with their hands and don't mind working outside. We find out it's not about brains. A lot of it, most of us are average intelligence. It's motivation and determination. People that want to work hard, make money for a manufacturer, a building trades contractor, that's what you got to be, motivated and determined. If you're motivated and determined, you'll kick the door down and you'll be successful.
Very much so. Hey, so Nick, we have a question here for you. I think you might be able to answer from John Zambelli. Do you see Pennsylvania expanding its liquid natural gas export capabilities, such as utilizing ISO LNG containers?
Yeah, so liquefied natural gas is, to me, probably the biggest long-term impact that we as a region can have across the global map. So that type of technology and application locally here to expand the LNG or liquefied natural gas capacity would be enormously impactful over the course of decades. If you think about LNG, you got people like the people that work in the building trades, or people that are just going to work is whatever type of discipline you can imagine in a tech sector, from engineering to science-driven, data-driven, in these industries. And during their daily work, they're extracting a molecule of methane from the ground right below our feet. And that molecule of methane is then going to be processed and separated perhaps into different byproducts, or transported, compressed, to different locations, demand centers, by people within this region working in these types of jobs. And then what gets interesting is the liquefied natural gas component to this basically takes us global. Because then what happens is there's going to be a portion of that production that we've all worked to produce. It gets consumed and utilized regionally, like at the cracker, but there's also a portion that's going to get exported globally. And now you're talking about some pretty serious, impactful results. So if you want to talk about purpose in a career, you want a reason to get out of bed in the morning because you want to make a difference. Okay, and I don't care what the job would be within this industry, it covers all the disciplines within this industry. Your impact because of liquefied natural gas, you're now getting energy, electricity to the destitute poor over the globe. There's a couple billion people on this planet that don't have access to electricity.
Absolutely.
And when you do give them access to it because of LNG, life expectancies go up, infant mortality rates drop, individual rights flourish. That's huge. Or just look at the geopolitics. You know, when it becomes winter in Europe, the Russians have a habit of, if they don't get what they want from Poland or Germany or France, they turn off the spigot, they turn off the valve.
Turn it off and they start getting
now,
what they want real fast. Absolutely, absolutely.
Now Poland and Spain and Europe, they get their natural gas from the United States. Same story with, you know, some of our allies and friends like India and Japan and the world over. So there's a geopolitical aspect to this. There's a poor and helping them get into, just, I'm not talking about even poor to middle class, I'm talking about the global poor getting into just a better quality of life. You talk about noble endeavors or noble industries. Yeah. This is one, and liquefied natural gas to me is one that actually just it increases the impactfulness of this industry by orders of magnitude.
Yeah, we have one last question here from our chat. I think this is a really good one from Chris Minger. Has interest from high school students in the trades increased lately? Have you been getting more invitations, you know, before COVID from high school guidance counselors to participate in career fairs and, you know, targeting high school students and so forth?
It has increased, and it's increased because a lot of people go to college, get out of college, and can't find a job. We have many people that take building trades tests that are in college right now, or that have graduated college. So
I'm going to do one pretty soon myself, just to make sure I'm ready to go in case anything crazy happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it is, you're seeing more guidance counselors, and that was one of the big problems. It was like you weren't successful unless you went to college. Let's face it, all you want for your children is a middle-class way of life with health coverage and be able to retire with dignity someday. It doesn't matter the occupation. Manufacturing, look at the steel workers and utility workers, the building trades. They're all good jobs. They know skills, and they can make a middle-class way of life. So there are more young people energized about getting into the trades. You're seeing more tech schools have more people in their
One of the things that I look forward to, Ken and Nick, is this whole shift about people making things. And we have seen that has really accelerated over the last 5 years. Obviously, in our world, we see it in terms of robotics, but we are seeing it. I mean, it wasn't too long ago, Jonathan and I did an interview with Komatsu and Joy Mining, formerly Joy Mining, and listened to the engineers about how excited they were for doing that kind of work. So their attraction is both in vocational skills as well as academia. So we have to think differently. And I applaud you for that. So what do you both think about technology and in our region and different ways for us to partner? Have you given some thoughts on that? I mean, we're very excited at the Tech Council for what you are embarking on. Have you given it any further thought, or are there things that what you want from us?
Well, Audrey, I think just having lines of communication, the universities along with the corporations and companies should be talking to labor and down at the table where we get our heads together. Imagine if we could bring more robotics here and bring the textile industry back to Western Pennsylvania, where we can make t-shirts cheaper than they can in China. Look what just happened with COVID-19. Don't you think we should manufacture things in the States when it has to do with our survival? PPE, masks, vaccines. Where all the vaccines and pharmaceuticals have moved out of here. We need to control our own destiny. And who better than Western Pennsylvania with the sources of energy? We got cheap natural gas. We've still got abundance of coal. Where you have the energy is where you can control the standard of living and control your destiny. We're on the cutting edge here that if we do this right, work with corporations, work with the natural gas, the steel industry, the steel workers, utility workers, we can make Western Pennsylvania one of the most viable places in America. We're already on a roll. We were slightly shut off with the COVID-19, but let's use this as a positive, regrouping, and use the cheap energy and increase our manufacturing, working together with the universities, corporations, and labor.
So how about, Ken, if when we get post-COVID and we can get people together, we all come out to your new facility?
Absolutely.
We'd love to have you out there.
I want a tour.
Lunch, love to have you.
And
Okay.
lunch.
Maybe we
good lunches there.
But maybe we can have like a get together.
Absolutely. We'd love to have a Pittsburgh Works Together, but host it. And we would want corporations, universities, companies, all the different labor unions. We want to work together hand in hand. The corporation isn't the enemy. The steel workers, utility workers, building trades want to work together to make this region better. Working together is our strength, and universities should be part of it. The healthcare industry.
One of the things that's being asked is to make sure, what are we doing to address diversity and inclusiveness?
Nobody works more at recruiting minorities and women in the building trades. We did 2 career centers, and both of them were overwhelmingly well attended. Governor Wolf attended the last one. We had people from City Council at both events. This is a collectively needing to work together with the community. Most of the building trades, you got to have a driver's license, pass drug tests. So we've got groups we're working with right now that are streamlining people and getting them to take pre-test so they can take the test in the various building trades. And no one puts more minorities and women on than our contractors in the building trades apprenticeship programs.
Hey, Audrey, you know, on the Tech Council side, on those prior 2 questions, I think there's a couple of things. One, real quick, I think the Tech Council could help tremendously with this message of it is not natural gas and petrochemicals and steel and manufacturing or the environment. It's both. And if you look at the data and you look at the facts and you look at the science, these industries are making tremendous progress on everything from CO2 reduction and reduced carbon intensity to clean up particulate in the air and everything in between. So it's not an either or choice between environment and activity. It's all of the above with respect to this opportunity. And the Tech Council can play a crucial role in that. 2, again, this is tech. And as a region, you always want to play to your strengths. So we've been lucky enough to have, you know, this type of resource beneath us, and applying our world-class work ethic of the people that live here into that opportunity. We should be focused on the type of tech that unlocks that strength versus sometimes maybe trying to be too much like a San Francisco or whatever other tech region we deem as being desirable, but they're playing to their strengths. We may not have those strengths per se for whatever reason. So let's play to our strengths. This is certainly one of them when it comes to how we apply technology to unlock it. And on the inclusion side, I think the two biggest sort of areas or regions that should be the driving beneficiaries and the drivers of the opportunities that are within these different industries and spaces are basically the areas that are not currently inclusive with the economic opportunity in the rural and in the urban areas. So to me, like if we really want to make the most of this opportunity, the recruiting, so to speak, or the pipeline of talent, we should be looking at kids in high school or in the middle schools getting into high school and those guidance counselors and getting them attuned and up to speed on what these opportunities look like career-wise, not when you're a senior, you know, when you're basically going into high school, so that you can prepare yourself with the curriculum. And we should be focusing on the rural areas that are economically disadvantaged and the urban areas that are economically disadvantaged. That's a big opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And I think education of families, just families overall, in terms of the options and the trajectories. Listen, you guys both, thank you so much. Thank you for addressing some of the issues. We will stay connected to you. We will do what we can to be helpful. We'll probably see if we can have a get together or a mixer when we're all able to get out at the new facility to start to create some new pathways and new relationships and create some exposure. So we're very excited about that. So thanks, Ken. Thank you for your leadership and thanks for dressing up for us today. We appreciate that as well as your passion. It is evident and your determination, really appreciate that. And same to you, Nick, and appreciate the work that you're doing and the thinking that's going on in terms of making this work. So tomorrow we have Honeycomb Credit along with the Urban, the URA. They're going to be joining. They have a new program. And then I mentioned earlier, we have Will Allen, and we're talking about investment and equity and some of the partnerships that he's formed so that, you know, we can move ahead. And so Nick and Ken, continue to join in on us if you have the time. We'd love to have you listen to the kind of issues that we're wrestling with and that we want to make sure that the community is knit together. So thank you all for taking your time. We have a virtual STEM summit just in a half hour from now. And we actually have a physician that's going to be taking several hundred kids through an opportunity for them to see surgery. And that is today at 1 at STEM. And then, you know, we're doing lots of things to make sure that kids see the kinds of opportunities that they can grab themselves. So I really appreciate it and appreciate you all taking the time. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, guys.